Welcome to Education Matters, presented by the Public School Forum of North Carolina. I'm your host, Marianne Wolf. The school year is quickly approaching and students will soon be back in person learning. Today, we will talk with the 2021 and 2020 Burroughs Wellcome Fund North Carolina Teachers of the Year, Eugenia Floyd and Maureen Stover. I'd like to welcome to the show our two most recent North Carolina Teachers of the Year, Eugenia Floyd from Chapel Hill Carrboro City Schools and Maureen Stover from Cumberland County Schools. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us on today, Dr. Wolf.
It's great to see you. I'm so happy to have you both on the show again, and the timing could not be more perfect as some of our year-round schools have already started, but for the majority of our state, we are getting ready for school to start, as you know very well. So I'd love to hear from both of you about the primary challenges or the opportunities that you are thinking about in anticipation of the coming year. Eugenia?
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited about the upcoming school year. As far as the challenges, a lot of the challenges we faced as educators were challenges that we've faced for many years. And I think that they've just been amplified in this last year and a half, and they've become more visible. So we know that during a pandemic, it was very hard to connect with our students. And at the time, we were actually invited into their homes and making those genuine and authentic connections, knowing that, their little sibling might be beside them listening to the lesson as well, was quite challenging. And I think that this is going to open up an opportunity for us to make sure that as educators, one of the first things we do on the first weeks of school is building that community and building those connections with our students. I'm looking forward to the creativity that also has come along during the pandemic, how teachers, we were able to find ways that kids could access and show their understanding of information in the virtual platforms. And now we can bring those skills and that creativity into our classroom. So I truly believe that this is a wonderful time for us to connect more with our students, and even more so allow them to have an even better access to us and to showing their understandings.
Maureen?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Eugenia. I mean, building those relationships is key. And we really saw how important that was during the pandemic, finding ways to still connect with our students and finding ways to still connect with their families to build that community. But when I look at COVID-19 and the pandemic, I see a lot of opportunities for us to redefine the way we teach our kids. So the pandemic brought to light a lot of the inequities that we as educators had realized for a very long time existed in our public education system. Now those inequities have been highlighted to our policymakers and to the general public. And that gives us a real opportunity to tackle those inequities and to find ways to provide equitable educational opportunities for every single student enrolled in North Carolina's public schools. I also see it as an opportunity for us to look at ways to personalize education. Teachers now have the skill set that they are able to look at a student individually and design an education for them that is based on their unique educational needs. And I think that's going to be a real promising thing for us to be able to move forward in the future, because now we have the tools, we have the skills, and we have teachers who are trained in ways to deliver that instruction and personalize education for each one of our kids. So I am really excited to look not at challenges, but at opportunities, because I don't think there's ever any such thing as a problem. There's only an opportunity for solution.
I appreciate that so much. And I know something that we've been thinking about and hearing from teachers and families about students is, will there be some unique needs this year? And when you think about the needs of our students, do you have some ideas that may be different or amplified, as Eugenia shared as well?
Absolutely. I think there's always unique needs that each of our students have. And as we come back into school, I think one of the things we're really going to need to focus on is developing our students' social emotional learning. We're also going to have to be very aware of trauma-informed instruction and understanding that each of our students and each of our teachers and all of the people who support our school systems from the bus garage to the boardroom are all coming back with some level of trauma. And so it's going to be very important that teachers are aware of that and that we have the right people in place with mental health professionals, additional school counselors, and additional school nurses to meet the demands of our students and our faculty and staff as we come back into our classrooms. Another thing that I think is really important is that we've heard a lot that school was closed. And I want to remind everyone that school was never closed. The brick and mortar buildings were closed, but school was always open. And teachers were always here to support our students and help our students continue to learn. And so I'm very excited as we go back into the new school year and we have our students back in our classrooms with us and face-to-face instruction. But I'm also excited to see some of the ways that we're going to redefine education again, both in looking at those social emotional learning and making that a priority for our students, and also finding ways to ensure that our students are fully supported in both their academic learning, but in all their other needs as well.
And Maureen, I think when you mention that so much it's important for us just to understand where our students are. And so often over the past year and a half almost at this point, we've talked about the need for patience and grace. And as you were talking, I just kept thinking it's going to be both for our students, but also for our teachers, our staff, and each other, because it is going to be different and everyone has been through a lot. And so as we go back to brick and mortar schools and maybe the 5 days a week or the full or in-person classrooms, I think all of that is just so important to consider. Eugenia, did you have any other thoughts about what might be some unique needs of students? I just want to give you a chance to share. I saw you nodding a lot as Maureen was talking.
Yes, it's almost like me and her are on the same chapter of the same book, same page. I completely agree with everything Maureen said. And I, like you said as well, Ms. Wolf, we definitely want to meet students where they are. And that includes whether it's social emotionally or even academically. We know that we have work to do in all of those areas. I can even think of an example when we went back into the classroom in Chapel Hill schools, one of the things I had to make sure I adjusted in my understanding was, hey, these fourth graders have never taken an end of grade test. That changed my pedagogy in my lesson plans for even letting them know or teaching them how to properly take this assessment. So it's important that we remember that there are kids coming to us with some things, and there are some kids who might not have certain things. And we are going to meet children where they are, because that's what we as educators have always done. And I know that might seem unique, but I think the uniqueness for me was just having the understanding of what kids have done this past year and what they did not have the opportunity to do, because we want to make sure we provide that opportunity for them now.
So when your colleagues reach out and say, Maureen, Eugenia, we're getting really nervous. I saw so many posts about the first day of August yesterday and all that comes with that, both excitement, but also some trepidation. What advice do you have for teachers about this upcoming school year?
Number one is we have to take care of ourselves. And just like the children need that grace and support, we also need to make sure the same grace we give students, we're going to give to ourselves as well. I know sometimes we as educators, we are set on go. I have many of my friends who are setting up their classrooms and they're ready to start a new type of curriculum and already thinking about where they want to intervene. But I also want them to make sure that they're doing the job of taking care of themselves, because when I'm my best, I can be the best for my students. So that is the first thing off the bat. I think many people have to understand that teachers also navigated this pandemic as well. We have personal lives and we also have some needs, and we experience the same things everyone else experienced, but we also have to make sure that we take care of ourselves so that we can do what's best for our students. And I think the other part is that I think we should all just get excited about being back in this building and back in this space to be able to support our students the best way we know how. And also taking all the tools that we've learned with us. That's the key thing right there. I definitely don't want to get rid of anything that I found to be super successful for my students during this transition.
Self-care for teachers and giving ourselves grace is really important, because we also went through this pandemic along with everyone else. And there was a lot of things that we learned about ourselves during that, and making sure that we're taking care of ourselves is very, very important. Another thing that I think is really important is that teachers remember why they love being a teacher. You love being a teacher because you have fun teaching, and you love being a teacher because you enjoy helping kids learn. So keep that in mind as you go back into your classrooms. Have fun and enjoy your colleagues and enjoy those kids as they come back into our schools. And always remain student-centered. I think when you always consider, how is this going to help my students? What is going to be the best process forward for my students? What is going to be the best way for me to navigate this challenge to turn it into an opportunity for solution for my students? When you lead your life as a teacher in a student-centered way, things always seem to work out just as they should.
We'll be back with more from Eugenia and Maureen after the break.
Education Matters is brought to you each week in part by Town Bank, serving others, enriching lives.
Welcome back. We are so pleased to be joined by our North Carolina Teachers of the Year, Eugenia Floyd and Maureen Stover. I did just want to think about the district leaders and principals who have been spending the summer preparing for the school year, just like teachers and staff have been. But also we have policymakers who are, engaged in legislation and policy development that will impact our schools. Is there any advice you would like to share with them about how to support our educators so they can, in fact, meet the needs of our students?
One of the really important things, especially for our legislators, is to understand that teachers need the proper funding in order to do our jobs correctly. Teachers do a lot out of their own pocket in order to ensure that their students have what they need to learn and to be able to do the activities and just to be able to manage their weekly lives in a classroom. So I think it's really important that we look at some of the surplus funding that we currently have and find creative and unique ways to use that money to support our teachers. I also think it's very important that we trust teachers. Our state superintendent, Catherine Truitt, believes in teachers and believes that every child deserves an effective teacher in their classroom. And we know that the best solutions to the challenges that we face in public education lie with the teachers who are in the classrooms every day. So I think it's very important that when there's questions about education, when there's questions about the best policies to implement that are around education, that we're reaching out and we're asking teachers and we're finding ways to connect with teachers so that they can help us learn the best solutions. Eugenia and I are always available to speak to any of our legislators, and we enjoy doing that to help them understand how different policies will affect teachers and kids in our pre-K-12 classrooms. We also have an incredible teacher engagement coordinator who is now working for the superintendent, Julie Pittman, and she is reaching out, finding ways to connect with teachers out in the field and then bring information from them back up to the agency. And so I think there's a lot happening right now that's really empowering teachers to be the voice that we need to know what is happening in classrooms and to know what the best way forward is in our classrooms to ensure that we are fully supporting the 1.5 million kids that we have enrolled in our public schools.
Something that is so important to the forum is also lifting up our educator voices, just like having you two here today, but also lifting up our student voices. And I think that's something I know both of you have also advocated for and that we'll continue to try and carry through, as I know you will. One of the things I think this connects with is the fact that you are part of this North Carolina Teacher of the Year program, sponsored by the Burroughs Wellcome Fund, along with the Department of Public Instruction. And I'd love to give you an opportunity to share more about this program, how important it's been for each of you, but also why it matters for educators and students across the state.
I'm new to the program, as you know, and one of the things that I have always prided myself on was working on it as a team. I tell anyone and everyone that Eugenia Floyd did not win North Carolina Teacher of the Year. The fourth grade teachers at Mary Sproggs Elementary won North Carolina Teacher of the Year. I am really excited about the fact that this idea of a professional learning community has also brought me to working with Maureen and working with Julie Pittman and Freebird McKinney and all of the North Carolina Teachers of the Year, but also I get to closely work with the 2021 Regional Teachers of the Year as well. And we have prided ourselves on collaborating. It is really important that when we are thinking about our schools and our students, that there is more than one person in the room having that conversation. And I'm really, really honored that I can be a part of that. This year, I am reaching out to all the school districts across the state because I want to visit and I want to be able to hear from teachers. And the best person I think I can think of from every district is their district teacher of the year. So as I travel throughout the state this year, I do plan on meeting with every district teacher of the year, giving them an introduction, but also getting them in contact with their regional teachers of the year, so that network and that connection and those examples of all the great things happening in North Carolina public schools, as well as the needs and concerns that people have, can get up to Raleigh and get up to all the other voices that need to be heard.
And Maureen, I know you have some other thoughts about this critical network as well.
Yeah, so I'm so extremely excited that Eugenia has joined the North Carolina Teachers of the Year team. And I'm really excited also that she's gonna have an opportunity to actually travel this year and to be able to go into schools and meet with the district teachers of the year. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing all the networking that she's gonna do to continue building out that Teacher of the Year network. You know, one of the things that I have found in my time and now in the National Teacher of the Year program is that North Carolina is very unique in our approach to the Teacher of the Year program. So it is not an award that was won or a prize that was won. It is truly a system that is built in order to build a team that is able to effectively advocate for all 1.5 million kids in our public schools. So with the Teachers of the Year team, we do have the 8 regions represented, plus our charter schools are represented. We have teachers that teach music. We have teachers that teach art. We have teachers that are core content. We have teachers that are middle school, elementary school, high school. We have teachers that are special educators. We have teachers that teach AP. You name it, we have a teacher that we can reach out to and ask questions. And that becomes extremely important when we're trying to advocate for our students, because Eugenia and I cannot be experts in every single field of education, but we have a trusted member of our team that we can reach to and that we can talk to and that we can get information from. And we can also bring them with us when we go into those critical meetings so that they're able to speak for and advocate for the programs and for the students in our schools. And I think that makes North Carolina so unique, because our Teacher of the Year is truly someone who is working with other teachers to advocate for our kids and for our teachers, and to raise the teacher voice and also to raise the student voice. And so I'm really excited that we've been able to continue building out this team. It really began with Freeburg McKinney's year, where he really started working on building out the team and having a team of educators that were working together and collaborating together in order to effectively advocate for our kids. Mariah Morris was able to continue that. And then in 2020, we were able to continue that. And now we've handed that torch on to Eugenia's 2021 team. And so I'm really excited to see what continues to happen as we continue to build out this Teacher of the Year network and truly help teachers lift their voices so that we're able to advocate for the students in our classrooms.
We're so grateful for all of the work that you both do, but also the networks and those that came before you and continue to engage for all of our students across North Carolina. One of the things that I would just like to go ahead and ask you a little bit more about is just how important it is that we're able to recruit and retain high qualified and well-prepared educators for our students, like the two of you. And I think about all the people you've impacted. What advice do you have for districts, ed prep programs in our state, and those that might be interested in being a teacher? How do we continue to make sure that every student has access to a wonderful, highly qualified educator?
So I think one of the words that we forget to put in when we talk about recruiting and retaining is supporting. The way that you're able to retain teachers is to support them fully in their classroom. And that's critically important for our teachers who are in their beginning years in the classroom. Our educational preparation programs do a phenomenal job of training teachers to be ready to step into classrooms and be effective educators on their first day with students. But there's a lot of on-the-ground training that you have to do in order to really become an effective educator. So things like classroom management, figuring out how to differentiate instruction, all these things that you learn about academically in an EPP, you then need to be able to understand how to make those work in practice. And so when we have teachers that are fully supported by a mentor teacher in their early years in education, and they have a trusted partner who is working with them to help them gain those skills so that they're able to continue moving through the profession, that is what keeps teachers in the classroom. The other thing that I think is really important is that North Carolina continues to look for unique ways to compensate our teachers so that we're able to keep teachers in our state. We do not want to lose teachers because they're moving to another state where they're able to make this more money. And so it's very important that we're continuing to find ways to fully support our teachers, both in their teaching practice, but also finding unique ways to compensate our teachers so that we're able to keep the right people in North Carolina to continue delivering that effective instruction to our kids.
I want to thank both of you so much for everything you do for teachers, for kids every single day. And I just can't wait to have you both back again because I learn every time and I leave more energized than when I started. So thank you so much for being here. We are pleased today to be joined by Lilah Dreier, a rising third grade student at Swiftcreek Elementary in Wake County Public Schools. Lilah, we're so glad to have you here with us.
I'm so happy to see you too again.
I know, and last year you came on Ed Matters when you were experiencing and going through remote learning, and you shared with us a lot of interesting facts. And so we're really excited today to have you back again as we get ready to go back to school in person in just a few weeks. How do you think this year will be similar to last year, and how do you think it will be different than last year?
So I think this year will not be on a computer because I do not like being on the computer that much. And I'll be happy to see my friends again, and I'll be able to see people in person, which is good news. I liked remote learning, but I didn't love it, but I am super duper excited and a little nervous to go back into my class.
And I'm just curious if you have any advice for other students who are getting ready to school, especially if we think about elementary school kids and how they might, what they might want to do to get ready.
Even if you're a little nervous or upset, you can easily breathe and just do it. Like, you can have so much fun. Like, on the second day, you'll get your computer class, and you would notice all of the things that you might have missed when you were on the computer, since being with your friends is one thing, or going on a bus with your friends is one thing, and seeing your teachers is one thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and just do it and you'll have an amazing time. Even if you say, oh, I'm not going to do this. Oh, I don't want to go. Just do it and you'll feel totally fine.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say to families and students across North Carolina who are getting ready to go back to school? Any final wisdom?
Well, I do have a few things. Is that you have so much fun at your school and really enjoy being there with your friends, and and even if you're a little scared or nervous, you got this and you can do hard things. You're not very used to it, but you did something even harder than going to school in person. You went on a computer or in person with a mask.
Lilah, that was great advice for everyone. And it's so nice to see you again now as a third grader. And so thank you for sharing your experiences with all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time with us to learn and think about education. That's all for today, and we'll see you next week.